Thank you for tuning in once again. This is the Wake Up Laughing podcast. I'm David Munson, and it's an honor to be here. And today we're going to talk about dance. And I just want to let you all know that you can go to davidcmunson.com to find out about my book and to see other projects and the preface by Patch Adams and all of the great stuff, samples from my book. There's a lot of stuff at davidcmunson.com. And today is episode 6. It is the first podcast that directly correlates to one of the chapters. And that chapter is the chapter on dance. And I went into our beautiful community here and I found one of my favorite dancers who I really love and respect. And so it's an honor to be here in the living room of Dinah Breakell.
Thank you, Dave. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
Well, yes, I've only been doing it for 11 years on the radio. So there you go. One would hope I could do an intro. Yes, here we are. This is the first podcast that we're doing solely audio. So it's a whole different environment. We can do anything we want with our face or our hands. We don't have to comb our hair.
We're in our pajamas.
Yeah. Kind of like walking into dance Sunday morning in your pajamas with morning hair, and who cares? So just to give you the folks the update here, I'm going to try to not talk too much because I'm largely here to honor the wisdom and the experience of my friend Dinah. But I am going to say the reason I'm here is because the Sunday morning ecstatic dance that Dinah and I are both a part of is one of the most profound experiences of my life. And that is what inspired me to put dance in as one of the chapters in my book titled Wake Up Laughing. And it's because the healing powers and the transformative powers of dance are ancient and they're so powerful. It's so effective at freeing us it's when I looked through my 23 chapters, I just found that 13 of my chapters of my book directly correlate to dance. And I'm just going to read them off real quick. And this is a great example of me hogging the microphone. So here they are: play, friends, music, love, meditation, gratitude, yoga, sing, think happy, laughter, breath, exercise, and service. Now dance would be number 14. So that's 14 chapters all rolled into one phenomena. It rolled into one experience. And the Sunday morning ecstatic dance that we both go to is definitely an experience.
It is. And I think another one you could add on there would be community. It creates such strong community.
Yes.
You and I have been dancing together for quite a few years now, and we know each other a little bit outside of dance, but the sense of knowing each other is on so many subtle levels,
right.
so kinesthetic because we dance together.
We dance together. We see each other week after week in different modes. I've seen you frolicking and like the loosest, most playful person in the room. And I've seen you being a little more cautious. So yeah, we get to experience each other. Dance is a visual, physical manifestation of our inner state.
Right.
So when we see each other, I'm going to get choked up, folks. This is a trigger warning. If you're not comfortable with a man speaking with his emotions, then you should probably turn it off right now. But we're witnessing each other's emotional, spiritual states on the dance floor.
We are. And it's, it's been such a community created dance experience over the years, of safety, having a safe enough space where we can come and feel where we're really at and move in our dance from that place rather than a choreographed place or a very social place. It's so very supportive of the internal process.
Right. It's very free form.
Very free form, yeah.
I mean, there are rules for safety. There's guidelines and structure that make it work. But as far as what you do when you go in there, there's nobody telling you, okay, right foot, go, left foot, go. There's no, it's very free form as far as expressing what you're feeling, and how you interact with others.
Right.
Is very free form. Yeah.
And we have spent many years working on the guidelines for that dance so that people can feel there is a structure, and the guidelines are out there on the website, and I think that's incredibly important when you're going to have people who are coming for all different reasons and with all different backgrounds and in different states, because dance is such a game changer. For whatever state you're in, it can shift. So you've got a lot of different things going on the dance floor.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so for anyone that's brand new to this, I'm just going to back up just a little bit and say that Ecstatic Dance, Dinah and I were just having a private conversation about how this all evolved somewhat from Sweat Your Prayers, which was created by Gabrielle Roth.
5 rhythms.
5 rhythms, a wave. It starts off gentle, and then in the middle it picks up, and everyone's hooting and hollering and bouncing off the walls, and then it crashes like a wave. and you hoot and holler a little bit more, and then it gets quiet, and in some ways, over an hour into it, you're grateful when it starts to slow down. You're like, oh, thank goodness. And then in the end, perhaps you end up laying on the floor, maybe by yourself, maybe with a friend, maybe with a group of people.
Right.
And and in my book, I tell the story of how I was healed, how profoundly I was healed at a Grateful Dead concert, where I was too stuck, I was too inhibited to just jump out there and join this well-choreographed group of free-flowing tripsters. And I finally found the courage to go out there, and individually different dancers came over and gave me some of their magic. And each time, oh my gosh, it was so profound, and it was so clear that they were coming over to help me. And so profound.
Yeah.
So again, I want to let Dinah tell her story. So can you start by sharing a childhood experience with dance?
Well, let me see. I think as a child I was sent to ballet class for many years, which I kind of loved, but I never felt I was very good at. It was so regimented. Yeah. And I always wanted to do something a little different. I was kind of the odd one out in the class. I wasn't at the right dance class. They didn't
appreciate your unique way of interpretation.
I do have a clear memory of one time I thought I was doing some really great movement. I was probably about 6 or 7 in the class.
Yeah.
And the teacher was like, Dinah, what are you doing? Stop doing that.
Oh, God.
What do you think you're doing? And I was like, I'm doing the snake. I made up this dance. It's called the snake. And they were like, don't ever do that.
Oh, my gosh.
Whatever you're doing, don't do it.
Yeah, your spirit was showing.
Probably moving my hips.
Oh.
But, you don't do in ballet.
Oh, right.
You know, everything's in very
rigid.
straight lines.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
I was trying to break out of the
Dinah busting the
lines.
snake. 7-year-old busting the snake quick before all of society crumbles in a big pit of like fluids and writhing muscles. Quick.
Yeah, shut down.
So that would be when the Bobby would show up without a pistol.
Blow the whistle.
This is all in England.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in London.
Okay.
So I managed to finally escape from ballet class and went into gymnastics, and that was much more fun.
Okay.
You hurl yourself around.
A little looser.
Stand on your head.
Yes. A little more kid-centric.
Yeah, it was much more just playful.
Okay.
And
nice.
yeah, and but eventually I just started to realize I just loved to dance and would go and find places to dance wherever I could, whether, you know, like clubs or I went and took classes in London. I'd often go to Covent Garden and take open classes there with all kinds of different people, and yeah, it was just a natural part of who I was to dance.
So yeah, and I'm finding one common thread in all the interviews I do is that each person, each one of us on this planet has to discover who we are, and we have to say no to things that aren't working and move to the things that do. And sometimes that means saying no to school. Sometimes that means saying no to a bossy parent or a bossy teacher. So you said no to ballet and went to gymnastics, and you enjoyed that. And then I was a little spacey, I apologize. You went on to taking other classes in the park.
In London, there's just so much you can do. There's like semi-professional level classes available everywhere. You know, there's tons of dance in London. So the studio I used to go to was in Covent Garden. Okay. And I did a mixture of I did modern dance, I did a bit of jazz, I even went back briefly to ballet.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's actually has its benefits.
Yes.
And as an adult dancer, I enjoyed it more.
Oh, interesting.
Because I had freedom and choice. I wasn't being just,
well, if
restricted.
It helps football players even.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, that's cool. It's interesting to think when we're out there on the floor dancing an ecstatic dance that there's actually some years of training within many of the dancers. Not all of us. I did tap dance when I was 6 and 7. I did Shuffle Off the Buffalo, and I did tap dancing.
I've got to see that one day, Dave.
Yeah, I enjoyed tap dancing, and but as a general rule, I stay away from classes that teach you memorized steps. And I did tango for a while, and it was fun. I loved the social aspect. I loved the intimacy of it. I loved the passion of it. And yet it was very difficult to master. It's very tricky, which makes it attractive. So let's land here in Ashland, Oregon, and the ecstatic dance community that we have here. And all groovy towns and maybe all cities have an ecstatic dance community these days.
Right.
So Eugene, of course, is going to have a heck of an ecstatic dance community. Santa Cruz has probably just got every block probably has a dance group. So they're not hard to find. In Ashland, there's probably 7 a week. Ish.
Right.
So it's wonderful. It is available. Now, if things go the way we're hoping, there will soon be 70 ecstatic dance groups in Ashland, because everyone, including our vast retirement community, could be enjoying the deep intimacy and the tribal trance benefits of ecstatic dance.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it's not even bigger than it is that there's a few hurdles to overcome to really enjoy the experience, unless you're kind of a natural born dancer from the beginning.
Sure.
And one of the most common things I've heard over the years for people who come and then it just doesn't work for them is it's a sense of being excluded, because they walk into a room where people are dancing and have these wonderful connections and are so comfortable in themselves, and it highlights the place in a new person that doesn't feel that way. And that because there's no choreography and there's no formal introduction and no kind of person who's obviously there to take care of you,
right,
it can feel like you're very on your own.
Yes.
And so I always just try to encourage new people to hang in there and just take the opportunity to make it their own dance, to own their own piece of the dance floor.
Nice.
And to drop into themselves and know that the most important dance we do in this form of dance is with ourselves.
Yes.
And everything that happens with other people kind of comes out of that. And is a wonderful gift, but it's not really the primary way into an ecstatic dance. The primary way in is through ourselves. It's like our anchor.
Sure. You always got to start with yourself.
You do, really, but when you go to a salsa class, it's all about you and the partner.
Yes.
So it's just a difference that it can be a hurdle for people.
No, I totally think that's a really important point. And I also feel that if you want to make it easier on yourself, if it is a giant leap to go to an ecstatic dance group, then you could go with a friend. And then you've got a buddy, and then you don't have to, and then it could be a lot easier because you're just playing with your friend and you've already established the rules or the relationship. So
that's a good point. And a great idea.
But I'll tell you, Dinah, the thing that I love about ecstatic dance, and particularly our very special Sunday morning group, is that I feel like I go into a shamanic trance when I go in there, because just entering the room, sometimes I'll even feel nervous before going because of the whole social, it's almost like a performance anxiety before going in there. Feel a little nervous. But for me, it is walking into a church, into a temple, and when I walk in there, to me, probably the most important rule. There's two rules. The two most important rules, I believe, is silence, no language communication, and then the other one would be consensual, honoring people's space. And when I go in there and I go into this trance state, and I even having been there for years, I can still have a hard time there, not feeling accepted. Like, whatever, I'm projecting, like, how come so-and-so's not being nice to me today? And, so it's easy to imagine a brand new person, it would feel hard to break in. But ideally, there are enough kind, present people that will come over and give a kind smile and stand next to this new person and let them know that they're welcome.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, the point that you made, that it's easy it could be a struggle that first, and then the other thing that makes it scary is that we do improv. I mean, we do contact dance in there. There are people touching, and that's terrifying if you don't know how it works and what the rules are.
I know. It is terrifying to people. And it puts them off because they've never seen it before, so they don't know that it's actually a dance form. And people do cuddle. People are also like lying on the floor, sitting on the floor, and just like resting or just connecting, and it's non-sexual.
But sensual.
But it's
yes.
It's sensual. It's like they're feeling each other, and
yes.
That is too much for some people, for sure.
Right.
But I think, just going back to your first point, I think that wherever we go, there we are. So if we have social anxiety, we're going to bring it with us to the dance. And who doesn't have a bit of social anxiety? I mean, in truth, we're all, we're all working on our inner stuff all the time. And some days we feel more confident and at ease than others. And so it is an opportunity. And this is, I think, to me, why I still get butterflies before I go. I know that I'll become more transparent to myself by walking into that room. It's a little cauldron of human behavior. It's a container for human transformation. And one of those elements is that by moving authentically in space in front of everybody else, I'm transparent to myself. So I'm feeling more intensely whatever's going on in myself in that moment. And maybe I haven't felt it or thought about it before until I get there.
Right.
It's not a space where you can come and kind of sit in the corner and not feel anything. It's, it's very, I mean, you could, but it would be super uncomfortable and feel very alienating to do that. So the invitation is to step out and feel and be, really in our bodies and authentically what is happening with us, move that. And it's scary at some level, but it's also fantastic. I mean, it's a relief. It's kind of what we all want. We all want to be able to be more ourselves with each other. We all want to be able to really see each other in all of our parts rather than just the social kind of controlled ballet dancer. We all want to break out of the box.
Yes.
So that to me is the butterflies are a good sign. I always think if I go to dance and I don't feel a little bit of a butterfly going on, I'm probably not going to have a great dance.
Right. It means that you're well aware that you're about to check in, and one way I've described it is I feel completely naked standing in the room, and all of the unnecessary chaff falls away, and all that's left is the gold and the truth and my little boy, my inner child. But oftentimes I'm just standing there with my 6-year-old self, and that's what makes it so real. It's magic. It really is. We have created a magic space for transformation, and it wouldn't be that way if it wasn't for all the powerful hearts and souls that are in that room that are also naked and raw. And it's actually a wonderful model for society. Like, we have this 1.5 to 2 hours of sincerity and unconditional love and acceptance and risk taking and celebration. It's totally it's what we've all have hoped for. And so it's just beautiful that somehow that 1.5 to 2 hours on Sunday morning can sustain us and carry us through the week till the next Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so beautifully put, Dave. And I really appreciate your ability to put into words the nuances of the experience, because oftentimes by the end of the dance, when we have a chance in circle to say something to each other about what just happened, the words are kind of gone because we're all in this altered state.
Sure.
And you often manage to articulate something that feels like it touches the heart of what just happened in the last couple of hours. I always really appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, it's also a burden because sometimes I spend the last 10 minutes of dance thinking about what I'm going to say. I wish that it just was channeled in the moment, but a lot of times I prepare it, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to share this one little part just because I want to make sure not to leave it out, because I'm wanting to share some of the secrets with the listeners so they can get what it is that makes this so powerful. And one of the things that makes our Sunday Ecstatic Dance group so wonderful for me, my personal process, everybody has a different path and different journey and is at a different place with themselves when they walk through the door, is at a different place with the community when they walk through the door. But what I found, one of the things most powerful for me, because I'm a male who is I'm in touch with my animal nature somewhat, more than many, I'm sure. And so, my biology, as a Homo sapien, as a mammal primate on planet Earth, a man's drive, a lot of it is around reproduction and looking for a suitable mate, and that quest. So, and some men, I'm afraid, maybe can't even switch out of that, perhaps. But I'm grateful to the dance that it's given me the opportunity to be in a room of beautiful people and many desirable women, and become aware of the fact that I am in hunter mode and that I am looking around the room as a male mammal primate looking for suitable mates and a woman that I would want to pursue on some level. And realizing that being in that state of mind and in that physical state takes away from my ability to really go deep in the dance and really be present and notice people maybe that I'm not physically, reproductively, mammalian, driven to connect with. But so in a word, the transition has been to go into unconditional love and be out of that whole first chakra sexual based impulse domination and just drop into unconditional love, and it's so beautiful because it's a two-way street. If I fall into unconditional love, then I'm going to become aware that hopefully the room, every soul in the room is on some level or another is capable of holding me in unconditional love. And then I'm going to look out into our community with that same unconditional love and just look lovingly into the eyes of every person I see. And I shared that with Lauren the other day, and he was like, "That's it, Dave. That is the trick of this whole thing. That is the nugget." Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad. It might have taken me a few years to really get that, but I know it was in the room here in Ashland where I found that, and I'm so grateful for it.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tricky little walk there with all the triggers in today's society.
Oh my God. And I mean, I think there's so many facets and nuances to what you just said.
Yes.
Well, first of all, what comes to mind is that how powerful that is. Like, even if we spend 50 minutes of the dance stuck in our own shit, like just struggling with whatever it is that we brought into the room that day, like 5 seconds of that universal love, that sense of compassion to self and other expressed through movement and connection, is like a homeopathic dose that will just change everything.
Right.
It's really, that is a phenomenal part of the experience. Yeah. And sometimes it feels like that. It feels like I have to work for the whole dance
to get there.
To be there. for whatever reason that day. But the other part of what you mentioned about just sexuality and like coming out of the stereotypical sort of predator prey or the mammal hunting male and the, you know, available women, however it is that we see that, we all bring those parts of ourselves into the room. And I think one of the things that I love about that is that Eros, is to me, it's life. It's the life force. It's the life force in everything. If you live a life of Eros, you have juice in everything you do. And the dance is like a centrifugal force that just ramps it up. It just opens it up so that we can feel our Eros. Mm-hmm. And we're so used to boxing it up into like sexual, like the reason for it is to reproduce, or, you know, right. I'm interested in this woman because I'm sexually attracted to her, but I don't notice another woman that right. is I'm not sexually attracted to. Whereas Eros is far less discriminating that way. Eros is like more inclusive and universal and just discovers all the amazing life-giving energy available between people. And I noticed that in the dance. Like, I think the community's grown that way because there's less of the sort of pairing up that goes on, and there's much more fluidity between the dancers, and all kinds of different shapes, sizes, ages, everything dancing together. And it's an incredible human experiment. And there's like some great relationships have been sparked at dance, and babies have been born, and there's there's everything there.
Nice. Yeah, and even little stuff like you notice that there's a person that before would never enter into the areas where people were brushing into each other or there was a hand on their shoulder, but now this person's there, like they're ready. Like, right. Wow, Johnny or Susie is now in the touch part of the dance.
Right.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And everyone comes and goes. Well, I think we've done a good job of describing energetically what happens in this powerful, consensual group of people coming together to be open and be vulnerable and share and celebrate. And I would like to hear a little bit about the process of as a facilitator. You are somebody that puts together dances. Now, this is the service aspect, but I would like to hear something about what it means to you to be the facilitator for a dance and create the music and all that. It's just another. I know. That was a big. Whoa!
I know.
You're like,
I
gee,
thought we were
Dave.
going to start talking about contact improv and touch and all of that juicy stuff.
I know. Yeah, maybe we could just keep going. All right, let's just keep going. So I wanted to say something about contact. We're talking about what's terrifying about it, and you're saying that contact dance could be terrifying for someone because of boundaries and because of the fear of being touched, maybe in a way that's not okay. But another fear, the first fear that comes up for me when I first saw it at Prescott College in the early 90s, there was people on a stage doing contact dance with each other, and maybe it was a class, maybe I was watching a class, but what was terrifying was not knowing the rules and not knowing how it worked, and the fear of rejection. And that still happens at times because it's not cut and dry. Like, is somebody okay with me touching them at dance? Now, if they look at me and they smile and they nod their head, or as a man, if a woman reaches over first and puts a hand on me, then I know. But if I'm the one, that's going to make the first move toward touch, that's tricky. So for me, there's the fear of rejection, which I've had worked on a lot and had some awesome victories and overcoming that. But yeah, contact dance is very powerful, and I feel like it's a return to the playfulness of children. Like children lay on each other on a heap on the bed at their friend's house or on the couch or at school. They know they want that touch, and hopefully no one's telling them it's wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a natural, it's incredibly natural, and it's incredibly sad how our society perceives it to be something sexual only.
Yes.
Instead of playful, friendly,
Right.
Creative.
And
It's just mammals love to
yes.
play and cuddle up and
Yeah.
just wrestle, and a lot of the contact we do at the community dance level is not like dance. It's not the dance form that contact improv can be. And contact improv, when it's at its highest level of a dance form, is the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen, with
Yes.
people who are spending hours every day training and practicing, and it's amazing. But it's available for everybody. And it can end up meaning you're just lying there with your head on somebody's, shoulder or whatever, and are you doing contact? Well, you're in contact.
Yeah.
And it may progress into movement that is going to be improvisational and experimental.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I used to be a purist and think that all the sort of cuddle puddles and everything were just, not contact. But I've totally changed my mind over the years.
Good.
I
That there's a place for it, and that if you're not going to do it at contact at Ecstatic Dance, where are you going to get a chance to go into a room and cuddle with your people?
Right.
And we just dance around the cuddlers.
We do.
Or maybe
We step over them.
The cuddlers can cuddle in the corner. Or yeah. When we're talking about that thing about school and where touch sometimes becomes this thing that's feared and it's not allowed, and that it's just sad that because touch can be a violation, because touch can be harmful,
Yes.
it has to be just outlawed altogether.
Right.
Which is, talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's
Right.
like throwing every baby in the
we need
world
touch
out.
so much, and yet there's been so much abuse and so much trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm not a therapist, I'm not a trauma expert, but I paid a lot of attention to it over the years because it's come up so often. And so there is a need for a lot of responsibility in contact, that there's the ability to say no, and there's the ability to ask for what you want. And even though it's a nonverbal dance, we encourage people to make how they feel known clearly. Mm-hmm. If they're not getting heard in a nonverbal dance,
Mm-hmm.
And right now we seem to have a very mature group that's coming together that are incredibly skilled in communication, nonverbal, who are very strong in knowing what they want. So it's not sort of up in our community right now, but in the past we've all done a lot of work together to support each other when people's trauma comes up around touch.
Yes.
And I think you have to, as a facilitator, you have to be willing to know that that might happen, and have some protocol for when it does, so that we can support people.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not very knowledgeable in that area, like, how that works, but I know that it seems like because of our maturity and our experience with ecstatic dance that if someone is choosing to keep to themselves, it's pretty obvious.
It is, yeah.
Yet I'm still thinking, but maybe this person that's so sad sitting there by themselves, maybe they would love a hug. Well, so if you're going to be bold, if you're going to have courage in the world of the heart, then maybe you can go to that person and just kind of touch their shoulder and look at them like, want a hug? And the worst that can happen is that they say no. And the best is that they say yes, and you give them a hug, and maybe it helps pick them up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. So one of my highest experiences in that dance room with contact was with this woman who I had been dancing with week after week. And we were innocents. Neither of us were well versed in contact dance styles or class. We have people that come to our dance that are highly skilled in contact dance and can do very precise movements that are very creative. But I was with this woman and we were both just exploring. And so I'm just like, well, no one ever does this, but what if we just wrestle like baby raccoons? And what if we just wrestle and roll and flip and like serious major contact, like we're just like entwined rolling across the floor. And we did that one time, and it would have been fun to see the video because I'm sure everyone was like, whoa, here they come. But we were taking it to like a whole new level, and it was what kids would do. We were like wrestling, and like our hands were interlaced at times, and it was just like super tactile, and it was just like, whoa. It was, it wasn't sexual, but it was extremely sensual and just like, it was so powerful. It was incredible. And it was just, it was non-spoken. Like we didn't sit there and discuss what we were going to do. It was just like, boom, off we went. And it was awesome.
That sounds great, Dave. I hope you get to do that a lot more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Me too. Once my neck heals up, yeah. Yeah. Well, it was kind of fun. We just did a little move in dance where I brought up the thing of you sharing what it is to be a facilitator, and you're like, well, I didn't think we were going to do that dance yet. And I was like, all right, well, let's go back. I'm okay. We can go back to contact dance. Let's both be in agreement with our dance here, Dinah.
Yes, very, very flexible of you, Dave.
Yes. Well, I am proud of my flexibility. Well, I can talk about. Do you want to talk about that?
What was the question again?
Well, just for you, the process of being the dance facilitator, which is the service aspect of this dance, which gives so much to people. I don't want to talk on about it too long because I'm more about. I actually decided I would love to hear you. Let's stay with this. We're stay in the juice. I would like to hear you share any recollection you have of could be your own transformation or someone else's transformation that you've witnessed, kind of a testimonial to the power of dance to allow people to make like incredible leaps of growth. So I don't know if any pop to mind. I shared one. The huge transformation it made for me to be in a room of beautiful open souls and drop the whole hunter mode and drop into unconditional love. That was a humongous breakthrough, and the reward was that I could be more at peace in that space, and I could receive more love, and I could give more love. And so that was a huge aha moment that translated to a deepening of my giving and receiving. And are there any particular people or instances that you can recall where you saw people transform? I've already got my next one. It just popped into my head.
Okay. It's funny. What's coming up for me is actually remembering the very, very first year I ever went to Ecstatic Dance, which was in LA in, I think, 96.
Okay.
And it was a 5-rhythm class, and there were only about 30 of us at the time who were coming every week. And I didn't know anybody there, and it was in a huge space. It was held in a fencing sort of gym type place that was huge. And I remember I was terrified, and I'd walk out into this huge open space, and I would shut my eyes for 2 hours. I wouldn't look at anybody.
Did you
I
dance?
would just be, but I would just have my eyes closed the entire time.
Wow.
And then finally, the facilitator started doing more of these exercises where we would partner with somebody and do different things. And so I had my eyes shut, and a partner sort of came into I could feel somebody's hands take mine, and the facilitator said, okay, open your eyes. And I opened my eyes, and I was like practically nose to nose with this other person looking like straight into my eyes.
Oh boy.
And it was like something woke up. Something in me just shifted. I'll never forget it. It was like stepping out into this experience of myself with another person that I think was felt like the first time that I'd actually
And how old were you? I'm
kind of old.
Well, were you in your 20s or your 30s
I was
or 40s?
in my I guess what would it be? My 40s, early 40s.
Okay.
Is that right?
Okay.
Late 30s, early 40s.
Young but experienced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was so vulnerable. It was an incredibly vulnerable moment, but it shifted something in me that felt really big. And I think a lot of those transformations in dance are incremental. They may feel huge to us on the inside, and they don't look like much on the outside.
Right.
But they're incremental. We build our skills
Sure.
to be more present, be more embodied authentically, to be less defended.
So I can see that there are baby steps that come from going week after week, and then there are aha moments, like massive breakthroughs. Like I wrote in my book that experience at that Grateful Dead show where those people came up to me, that was the equivalent of months or years of talk therapy. Just breaking through the inhibition and feeling free, just all the instantaneous release and realignment kind of thing. So when you did something that was big, where a lot of stuff happened real fast, where you opened your eyes and here was this person, and it was like, all right, Dinah, it's time to be comfortable with somebody that close, holding your hands and dancing with you.
Right. And of course, just to add, because it was LA and things like this happen in LA, it happened to be Frank Zappa's daughter.
Moon Unit.
It was Moon Unit.
Good Lord! Now this is a famous podcast.
There,
everybody.
I name dropped.
Holy crap! If I could have opened my eyes dancing and had Moon Unit holding my hand, oh my God, I might have moved to the moon. That's amazing.
And she was so.
She was probably
kind.
Probably free as can be.
She was free as can be. She was.
Oh my God!
So
I bet.
it was like I got a transmission.
How did you find out?
I got zapped.
How did I? So I was just sharing with you earlier before we started about Dweezil Zappa playing electric guitar on my radio show, not live, but that's so funny. I just was talking about her brother, and thank you, Frank. Up in heaven for what you did to send creative, loving beings into the world. Ahmet, Dweezil, and Moon Unit.
Yes.
I think those are the three. So how did you, and I'm getting totally off course here, but let it be. How did you know it was Moon Unit?
I don't know. I can't remember.
You knew it,
but I did
right away.
I knew it was. I knew
from
she
MTV. She was big on MTV.
I knew who she was. I think I recognized her, and she was there.
Wow.
And I'd probably seen her as I was going in or something.
Oh wow!
But
was this a Sweat Your Prayers?
Mm-hmm.
It was, and they chose to break with the format and have people pair up.
Well, in those days, the two facilitators, Michael Skelton and Joe Cobbett, were actually playing around with a lot of that. They did a lot of breaking during the middle of the dance to do different either rituals or kind of encounter type experiences.
Okay.
That was just part of their thing at that time.
They were experimenting with ways of increasing...
Of bringing connection.
Increasing the connection and moving the process along.
Right.
And okay. Wow. And I was picturing some tall Italian dude with like really not fancy shoes, because I guess he would be barefoot. But I was imagining you having to come to terms with this dude with like serious eyebrows and like a serious like look. But you had a playful young woman. Is she our age?
She's a little bit younger, I think.
A little bit, yeah. Wow. So that was transformative. You were transformed.
That was, I
with
mean, it
the
wasn't.
Moon Unit.
But it wasn't really that it was her. It was
Yes.
it was just the moment, the shock of the moment of like the thing that I'd avoided.
Yes.
You know, for months
sort
and
of
months.
forced upon you.
Yeah.
And so you made a year's worth of progress in 3 seconds, in a way.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it felt like that on the inside, and then of course, you know, whatever those tendencies were was still there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a message that you're not going to die if you take these risks of connection.
Good. And so how long did you dance together? You just held hands and danced?
It was definitely an eye gazing thing. That was the direction was to hold the eye contact.
That's what you do at the Human Awareness Institute workshops.
Which your first time doing that is like, good Lord, you can't believe how powerful that is.
It makes you squirm a little bit if you're not used to it. Like,
yeah.
Okay, what are they thinking about me now?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
And I mean, the way we normally look at each other, you know, if you stare at somebody, it starts to feel inappropriate. It starts to feel invasive.
Right.
So to be in a consensual thing where you're actually just having the experience of what it's like to hold eye contact is, it's physiologically, it does put the system through all kinds of different experiences.
Sure, vulnerability. We've just evolved sociologically to be creatures that don't gaze into each other's eyes unless it's your child or your lover. I guess, that would be quite natural. But to do that with a stranger, and that takes it back to the unconditional love thing, because when you do one of these workshops with the Human Awareness Institute, suddenly you're thrown into a room with 30 people and you're in a double circle and you're rotating around, spending 30 seconds gazing into the eyes of a stranger and gazing into the eyes of another stranger. And for me, what comes out of that is that there are no strangers, and that we are all together on this earth, and that basically all humans are beautiful, magnificent, wonderful creatures.
You're making me cry now, Dave.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And it's very close to me. I just did that workshop, 6 weeks ago, and I even have said, I opened up a can of worms by talking about dance, our Sunday Ecstatic Dance, and saying at times when you're rolling around with a group of people in a non-sexual, sensual manner, I made the statement where ultimately you get to a point where you're not sure who your foot is touching or your arm is touching, and ultimately it doesn't matter, because you're guaranteed it's a one of God's glorious creatures. You're guaranteed, and if you're in unconditional, and I said that, and some of the people around recoiled a little bit, like, well, yes, it does matter.
It does matter. It always matters.
Yeah.
And consent is always, like, vital. Always. So, having said that, if you've gone into some group contact dances on Sunday morning where it doesn't feel like it matters, that may be a temporary moment where people are choosing to be in that configuration, and there is an unspoken consent. The trouble is somebody gets in that who is not consenting and they don't take themselves out of it, then they're going to feel like they've been abused or
unintentionally,
then that opens a whole can of worms. So so what I'm trying to say is, it's not a rule that you go into this universal state and it doesn't matter. That is not something you can ever rely on, because you're in a room with people in all different states, and you have to be responsible that as absolutely impeccably as you can, that you're not just assuming
that's right
that you have consent.
And every experience is different. Every Sunday is different.
Absolutely. Every moment is different.
And and there are moments when there are 4 or 5 or 6 people kind of rolling around, and it is universally accepted that we are all okay rolling around together.
And I think one piece of that too is it people you know really well, who you've danced with many times before, who you've spoken to about your experience, who you trust will speak up if something's not right for them, who you trust you will speak up to. Is there a foundation and a ground of trust between you and those other 4 people? If there isn't, if you don't know who they are, and you're not in a contact like jam where the specific purpose is to do that dance form, then you're taking a lot of risks. There's a lot of people who know each other very well at our Sunday morning dance, and so we kind of a little bit spoilt that way, in that we know exactly who we're dancing with. And so that changes things.
We've spent years and years creating a group of people that know each other and that trust each other, and we've seen each other in our highs and our lows, and our most open and our most shut down. So if you go to a brand new dance group in groovy Eugene or groovy Santa Cruz, you can't necessarily dive right into the center.
No, I wouldn't.
I
would not assume I had any permission to do so. And I think I would, wait to get to know the dancers. And
so I really appreciate, we've got like 5 minutes or less to wrap this up, and I really appreciate what you said, Dinah, about how tricky it can be and challenging for a new person to walk into a room of people that are ecstatic dancing, and that you don't immediately feel this giant, well, you might, depending on who you are and what your...
and the day.
The day and what your armoring is, and how at peace you are with yourself. You could walk into the room and look around and just feel like a big warm welcome. But I really appreciate what you said, because it makes sense to me to close this on how does a newcomer approach this. And that you were saying that a good place to start is with yourself. And that was such a beautiful thing to say. That dance with yourself, love yourself, feel yourself, take that time to really settle in and really feel where you're at and what your joys and what your sorrows are. How does your body feel? How does your breath feel? I mean, what a great place to start. And hopefully, and even with your eyes closed. Because I actually wrote that in my notes that I haven't referred to at all during this talk, that dancing with your eyes closed is a thing. Mm-hmm. And if you want to feel and go in, closing your eyes is a great thing. So
definitely.
Yeah, so that's maybe one way for a newcomer to approach an ecstatic dance group, is to just think that you're going there to be with yourself.
Yes, I love that. And then, slowly but surely you discover the community that you're in. Yeah.
Yeah, and because these people have dedicated themselves to cultivating their comfort with dance and their healthy, balanced relationship with themselves and the community, that these people will one by one come to you to check in with you and make an offer of dancing in place with you. And then in our town, there are contact classes where you can go and learn about contact dancing, to feel, it sure makes you feel comfortable for someone to say, well, look, here's how it goes. It's exchanging pressure. You just lean into me and I'll lean into you, and have somebody hold your hand into that potentially scary place.
Well, and we have a jam right now, which is starting with an hour-long class. So, every week there's an opportunity.
Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday nights is an opportunity to
so
actually learn.
So there's an hour of class, and then it's like
then the jam.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's quite common in these hip nexuses, that you can find opportunities to take that class. And here's another thing I'll say, is that to show up your first time at Ecstatic Dance, it's not a requirement that you've taken formal dance classes. It's not a requirement that you even know how to dance at all. It's not a requirement to be comfortable dancing in a group. If you're able to close your eyes and feel the music, I think you're in the right place. And maybe you'll swing one arm, and maybe the other will start to swing. And I tell you, I think the way I've learned to dance is just by watching other people dance and mimicking other people. And it could even be something that you watch on YouTube, or a performance that you were at. But yeah, it's super welcoming and super intimidating at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Like everything, it's a paradox.
Yeah. Well, let me just check here. I think, we've done it, Dinah.
Yay!
High
Dave,
five.
high five.
Wow, thank you for sharing. I appreciate.
My pleasure.
I knew that you would be a good person to do this with, and all of my hunches are affirmed. And I think we shared some very beautiful stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking me, Dave.
And thank you for listening. And be sure to check out davidcmunson.com and learn about the 14 chapters, including dance, that all pertain to the magic, healing powers, and health sustaining powers of dance, as well as the other 9 chapters that aren't directly related, but I'm sure have some connection. All right. Thanks for tuning in.